Welcome to the Post Racing Podcast with Ron Robinson and Sean Travass. Post Racing, the site for winners.
Oh, good afternoon, Sean. You'll have to excuse me. I'm a bit bummed. I've got a cough. I've got a cold. Andy, send some of that Guinness over with you, mate. And I did say I'd mention your Guinness.
Can you hear the sound of the world's smallest violin playing in the background?
Yeah, I know.
That's me. I'm sat here with a cup of soup because it's not that warm and it's pretty damp and miserable down here. But never mind, it's winter, so what can we expect? And it's winter, we know that because in the background, Cheltenham races on the TV. Can't be bad.
No. And haven't we started well? Thank you very much.
Haven't you? Yeah. Tell them.
Yeah. Good old Oms. Yeah.
Good start. We've got our little list of things to chat about, but we've sort of thrown one in at the last minute, so neither
we have.
I haven't written a word down for this, have we? Shark Hanlon.
No, this is all off the cuff. This.
I was going to say he won his appeal, but did he? What do you think?
Well, I'm not sure. When you first told me that Shark Hanlon had his appeal basically upheld, they'd taken 4 months off, giving him 6 months instead of 10, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's a possibility that half of that will also be suspended.
Yeah.
But then when I was reading the story, he's already put half of his horses through the ring.
Yeah, that's nice. My terminology was going to be he's won his appeal, but I'm thinking, is that a win situation? I don't know, because the ban doesn't come in till early December, I believe. I haven't got the date written down.
No.
And even if it's 3 months, that's December, January and February. So that suggests that he won't have anything ready for Cheltenham if he's got any horses.
No, would he? No.
Even if he's got any horses left to even attempt to send to Cheltenham. So I don't know. It's a catch-22. Half of me sort of says the horse is going through the sales ring suggests he's given up.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
But then if you've given up, why did you appeal?
Yeah. I basically joked. Well, we basically joked that he'll probably get Sneezy in to run the yard for him while he was suspended. You know.
Yeah.
And I thought, we were discussing last week why it was taking so long for the appeal to be heard or the result of the appeal to be given out. And I was thinking to myself, well, maybe they've given him the heads up.
Yeah.
And he's making preparations for when the announcement is made that he's been given 4 months off and half of it will be suspended. Yeah. And he can get something organised so that his horses can stay in training. But he's selling up. It looks like he's selling up anyway.
Well, there is the 2 and 2 makes 5 possibility that some of those or all of those might have gone to the sales regardless. And that because he sent some horses to the sales and he's got suspension coming up, therefore he's giving up, and that might not necessarily be the case. I can't pretend I'm privy. I'm not. I have no idea. But it makes you wonder, why did he bother appealing if he doesn't intend to carry on? Maybe he's thinking new broom sweeps clean. I'm making this up as I go along, obviously. Maybe he's thinking I could do some renovations at the yard, rebuild this stable, do that with the gallops or whatever. I'll get rid of this set of horses with a few exceptions. Do all that, and then when the band comes up, I'm ready to go again. That's a possibility, but I'm making it up. Yeah. But it's a bit of a shame. I actually think the sentence he's got now is still too steep, personally. And
it's hardly along the same lines as a Gordon Elliott thing, is it?
No, I'm a massive horse and animal lover. I don't side with horses being beaten within an inch of their lives. I don't side with any horses being underfed or ill-treated, be that in racing stables or the thousands that are ill-treated around the countryside. I don't side with any of that, but I think this was a genuine mistake. No one's actually mentioned that I've anywhere what the horse died of, so I don't think there's been any question that there's anything wrong there. It was a carcass, a horrible phrase, I don't really like that word, but still, a carcass of a horse with the tarpaulin blew off, and therefore the public could see. Now, if there hadn't been such a thing as social media, I doubt we'd have even known about it. If someone filmed it in their car.
The thing is, the band that was pulling the trailer had his name all over it, so that you think the last thing he was going to do was leave an exposed carcass on the back of the trailer, you know?
Yeah,
because everybody knows who he is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very knee-jerk reaction to the fear of how the Irish public, in this particular case, see thing and see cruelty to animals, etc. And I think they sort of come down with, we must come down with an iron fist on this because we must be seen to be doing the right thing. I think it's just a genuine mistake. And I think the 6-month ban is too harsh. He only 3 months suspended if he follows certain courses and does certain things. I assume they're gimmies, or they wouldn't put it in there. But I know that for a fact. So I still think that's more than harsh enough. And if you want to be really harsh about it as well, am I bothered about Shark? Yeah, I am a little bit. But I'm more bothered about the stable lads and lasses that are potentially out of work.
Yeah.
He, at the end of the day, rightly or wrongly, he was responsible for that, and he's the one the axe has fallen on. But it's not just him. There's a sort of collateral damage falling out of this, and that's a little bit harsh on them for what I see as a fairly minor indiscretion.
You'd have thought just a financial penalty would have been enough, wouldn't you?
I would have thought so, but what do I know? Onwards. I know you're going to like this one.
Yeah.
First thing Ron said last week, put that in the podcast. Fakenham.
Yeah.
I'll let you run with it. You can run with this one.
Yeah. The first thing I do, excuse me, the first thing I do when I'm doing figures for a meeting, I go to the BHA website and I check what the going description is. Now, the guy at Fakenham, David, I've forgotten his surname, David somebody, he's always very witty on the website. And you can imagine it'd be great for a night out in a pub. But the description of the ground that he put up on the BHA website, it was like poetic. It was waxing lyrical, and you're thinking, God, what a lovely track that must be to ride on today. They got to the first race, horses slip sliding everywhere, jockeys and trainers come out and said, not running on that. First race finished, abandoned the rest of the meeting. I mean, come on. What is going on with the ground stuff there? They must have known that something can't have been right. They must have known.
They watered the night before, by all accounts, and there's people questioning that was possibly a contributory factor, and also why, because it didn't look like it needed watering. There was rain coming, however much, I suppose, is guesswork. Let's face it, the Met Office don't get it very accurate very often. That's my personal view. So if they say 3 mil, whether you're actually going to get 6 mil or no mil is open to question. The main point to me is it was a real shame and an absolute pain in the butt for people who went there, because they ran a single race. Nobody gets a refund, but you do get a ticket to use another race meeting. Well, what about any holiday makers who are in the Norfolk area who went to Fakenham who aren't going to be back in the Norfolk area again to use their ticket for another day at the races? And the problem with that is they then come back, and again, it's my personal gripe, unfortunately. Social media can be a good thing, but it can also be an incredibly harmful thing. Anyone who went racing and didn't get their money back, who won't be in the Fakenham area, is probably griping all over Facebook, Twitter, and everywhere else. And anyone thinking of going racing for the first time reads that and thinks, sod that for a game of soldiers. I don't really want to be treated like that, so I'm not going to bother. Also, Fakenham, even in the one race, had low sun issues, which is your other favourite topic, of course. So that was another problem. I don't know what they do about it. Maybe an ex-jockey on a hack could go round and see, but I suppose unless you're going at racing speed, how do you know if a racehorse is going to slip? There's no point in going on Dobbin for an argument and plodding around the corner and going, it looks perfectly safe. That's not the same thing as going around at 30 odd miles an hour in a race, is it really?
No, this is true. But you should still have an inkling. Yes. Because he was going on about how lush the turf was. And it's a great racing surface, and I'm thinking, superb, happy to work with that. They had, for Fakenham, they had a good turnout as well. And normally they only get like 3 or 4 runners because it's out in the wilds. Yeah. If you ever have a look at the long distance travellers when Fakenham's on, 99% of them are going to Fakenham because it's that far from everywhere that's got a racehorse, you know. There was a lot of diesel wasted, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that they need to look into is the cost to the owners who were travelling, anyone who part owners, I'm guessing they're syndicate horses there, they usually are, who actually took a day off work or a day of their annual day to go there for no reason whatsoever. Now, I'm not suggesting Fakenham should compensate people for that, but if it was me, I'd be like, fantastic, I only had 2 days holiday left, and that's one of them completely wasted. And then I've spent another 20 quid on petrol to go there to watch one fast of a race because low sun took hurdles out anyway, and then turn around and drive back home again. It's not a good look for the sport, is it really? But I don't know what they do about it. But again, it's the usual story for me personally. I don't necessarily know the answers, but I would like to know that someone is digging deep and looking into it to find out what to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's the thing. We all get things wrong, but we all theoretically learn by your mistakes. I'm not entirely convinced racing does that particularly well, and I'd like to see them digging into it and publicising their findings. I don't want to see anyone hung out to dry over this. I don't believe it's anybody's particular fault or necessarily, but the lessons need to be learned, and I'm just not convinced that racing does that sometimes.
Yeah.
Gutted. No, it's not been much of a good news. It's not been much of a good news week this week, is it really?
It's not, no.
Or Clive Smith next.
I know, yeah, 82 years of age, passed away. The owner of Calto Star, masterminded. He had some cracking horses, didn't he?
He wasn't unlucky, was he, as an owner? That's for sure.
He wasn't, no. From building and designing golf courses to owning horses like that. That is living the dream, isn't it? Didn't he end up living in Barbados as well or something?
I don't know where he ended up living. I know he started as an accountant, and to any accountants listening out there, I apologise in advance. So he clearly started with a very boring life as an accountant, and then went on to golf courses, sell that for I think £8 million if memory serves. Then bought race horses. Rumour has it, because it was all a private sale, that he paid about $400,000 for Cato Star. But then that didn't look about too bad, because he won $2,375,000 plus in win and place prize money, 23 wins from 41 starts, including 2 Cheltenham Gold Cups, and I don't think we'll see it beaten. 5 King Georges. I don't think anything will ever get near to that.
No, nowhere near it.
I mean, we'd all love to own a horse like that, but I think the reality is if we had the money and the time to sit and dissect it, I doubt there are very many owners, with the exception of the likes of JP McManus, who've got anywhere near to that kind of return.
I wonder how much that amount of money would be today, because he paid around about €400,000 for Calto Star in 2004. I mean, people are spending that amount now, and it's wow, look at the amount they've just spent on that. And we're talking about 20 years later. So, I wonder what that would equate to today. Probably a world record, wouldn't it?
Agreed. And probably the reality is that if you looked at all the other horses he owned, which I haven't bothered doing, then what you see is the 2 that made him loads of money, and you ignore the 22 that he lost loads of money on, potentially. But if you look at those 2, if he paid $24,000 a year for training, which I know he didn't, it was back in those times, but just for an argument, he's paid I don't know, $200,000 in training fees and picked up £5 million in prize money. So it's not worked out as a bad investment.
No. Well, he was an accountant.
Yeah, we'll see the likes of him again, I'm sure. People will.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we'll see the likes of Cato Star ever again. I really don't. 5 King Georges is unheard of. I just don't see that happening again.
Weird, isn't it?
But well, they seem a little fragile these days. If the horses are, or the way people treat the horses are, I'm not sure. Not picking a constitution. Also, I don't want Nicky Henderson on my back. But there's plenty of things about how fragile he is, and he doesn't see the racecourse very often. Well, Cato Star was no Denman, but he was a brute of a horse, and they raced him when he was well enough to race. So you're not going to get him around for that long these days. So hats off to him. What you'll find, ladies and gentlemen, for the younger people, our younger listeners, if there are any, is as Ron and I get older, you'll find that whereas 5 years ago we might have gone 75, that was no age, we now look at him at 82 and go 82, that was no age. And that's
no age. Yeah.
And that's because we're slowly but surely creeping up in that direction. So nothing counts as a good age anymore for us. Onwards. Ascot Champions Day, or inspiring or a damp squib is what I've written down. What did you reckon?
Honestly, did I watch a race? I think I watched Sharon win the Queen Elizabeth II stakes, but that was the only race I watched. And then I don't know what I was doing. I must have been working on something. And then I opened up the results page and saw Anmart 40-1 win the Champion Stakes, and you think, what is going on? Do me a favour. And then the last race, which was actually won by an arm at 14-1, the handicap, the only handicap on the card. But you look at the rest of the results. I mean, Kalpana. We both said that horse could not win that race.
Absolutely. Right? He won it.
Yeah.
Won it.
Now, I didn't watch the race, but I listened to Ruby Walsh before the race. saying that he'd gone right through the horse's pedigree. None of the family had ever won on ground described as soft. And everybody, to a man and a woman on the show, was saying, well, that, just puts you right off backing that horse, and then it goes and wins by, 2 lengths? It spread them out all over Ascot, didn't it?
She won so easily that I'm wondering, obviously not my place, but I'm wondering whether Judd might consider sending Blue Stocking straight off to the paddocks.
Because you never know.
They got Arnold for next year. They don't need them both. And they're both mile and a half mares, so all the top mares races and the Arc are on target for both of them. So it's which one do you keep going? You're interested to see. Kyprios, of course, was the exception. I know he was odds on.
But then,
What a machine he is. You can't knock him. You really can't. Absolute brilliant horse, no doubt about that. Charing gave away and a sound beating to our Filly Farmer, I'm afraid. That didn't work out particularly well. Kalpana maybe a little more stupid. And if you want a good laugh at my expense, as many people do, we have the Champion Stakes, as you just mentioned. Well, we both discussed, and I personally thought Economics couldn't win, and the way he was taking it.
I said the same,
And we got that bit right. However, I did Calandigan to win, who ended up being mugged on the line and finishing second. And I did my other French raider, Irisine, each way, who finished fourth. So as I've written down here, it's a race I won't forget in a hurry, but for all the wrong reasons. It just didn't work out that way. We said before the racing last week, and it's not changed because of the results. It's an end of season thing on soft ground, and we expected some upsets. I can't say I expected 40 to 1 in the Champion Stakes. That's for sure.
Nobody saw that coming. They couldn't have done.
No, and Calandigan just didn't get a run either. He eventually got out. When he got out and shot to the front, and then this thing came and mugged him on the line. So
I've still not seen it.
It's quite a good race. Whether you want to take the form at face value, unless we get a soft ground summer, is up to you. I mean, I wouldn't personally, because on good ground, I think it would be a very different result. But
I do as well.
I'm bound to say that way I don't look quite so stupid.
Just going back to that race, the Kalpana one. To my mind, it could be a case that nothing handled the ground, because the horse that finished second, beaten 2 lengths, I'd never even raced on that ground before, so we had no idea whether it would handle it or not. That was Wingspan, Aiden O'Brien's supposed third string.
Yep.
And then there was 3 lengths back to the third horse, 4 lengths back to the fourth horse.
Yeah.
To my mind, nothing handled the ground. Just the Kalpana did better than the others.
You could be proved right. I mean, she was impressive, but then, as you say, impressive on that ground is a different thing entirely. I mean, you get things on its maiden by 6 lengths, and then you look at the ground and go, well, they were strung out from one county to another. So how valuable is that form? You know that distances are exaggerated when it comes to heavy ground or soft or very soft ground. So you take the form with a pinch of salt. But she was impressive. She looked like a decent horse, and it made me look, egg all over my face, as the saying goes. But these things happen. Let's hopefully they don't happen this weekend.
Yeah, but to go back to the proper fireworks or damp squib, this time of year, flat racing for me, damp squib right around the clock.
Which is why I've given you nothing but flat racing.
I noticed loads of juveniles we're going to talk about as well. Yeah.
Well, that's fun. This is Ron's chance to do a little bit of marketing for itchcheltenham.com, because that's why we're not covering the Cheltenham meeting, because that's all covered on his website. So over to you.
It is. Yeah. Well, last year I decided to set up a website purely and simply devoted to Cheltenham. A lot of people hate the fact that the National Hunt season is all geared towards March. Yeah. But the plain fact is, it is. Yeah. So I thought to myself, well, if I design and develop a website that covers every single Cheltenham meeting in depth, but also when it comes to those races being run at the festival, I give you chapter and verse on the statistics based around the jockeys, the trainers, the starting price, the weights carried, etc., etc. You've got to go and have a look at a page to get some idea of actually what is up on that website. And it's only going to grow because obviously every year we have a meeting, those stats will be updated. You'll have an absolute goldmine. And I thought to myself, well, how much do you charge for something like that? Because I'm covering 6 meetings. Like this weekend, I've covered 14 races, or I will have done by the time I've finished tomorrow's work. And then you've got another 14 in the middle of November. You've got the Christmas meeting, the New Year's Day meeting, you've got the February meeting, and then of course you've got the Cheltenham Festival. And I think it works out something like 20 pence a race, or something stupid like that anyway. So I settled on £1 a week. I thought £1 a week, that's not, I mean, you can't afford £1 a week and you like your horse racing.
Good luck.
Stop betting. Yeah, stop betting. But it is, and the proof of the pudding was in the first race today. I'm watching the markets like a hawk now, because that is where the winners are, unfortunately. And especially this time of year when stables are nowhere near up to speed yet. You've got Nicky Henderson running a 17% running to form figure. This time at the end of next month, it'll be 67%. But right now, he's just getting his sighters in. So you watch the markets. And this morning, around about 10 o'clock, I updated the page for today's meeting with the names of 2 horses that were being supported. And they come on first and second at 7-1 and 17-2. So, I mean, just doing an exactor on that's probably pays you 52 quid back.
Proof is in the pudding, as they say, isn't it? So
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Exactor 5680, computer straight forecast 6685 for the first. Just to give you accurate figures.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Anybody that's done it is they're already a few quid up on the investment for the entire season. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was, because of my age, I sat there trying to work out what can you actually buy. We said 20p a day. What can you actually buy for 20p? And I was thinking, I can't think of anything you can buy for 20p anymore.
No.
It's a bit sad, isn't it? The old joke used to be a fellow.
But it goes way beyond everything I've just explained as well. Like, I'm watching the sales. You're getting the names of those horses well in advance of any, these racing books that come out. And they've got pointers to follow and all the rest of it. They're up on this website long before those books come into publication in the October. Absolutely. Long before. I'm putting these up in April and June. So yeah, I'd pay £1 for it, £1 a week. I think
we'll do as well. I think the sales are particularly interesting. I noticed 2 horses when I was looking at a race on Sunday, I think it was, and they both ran in the same point to point. And the winner was sold for 110,000, and the runner-up was sold for 130,000. Go work that one. So I'm guessing that it must be to do. Obviously, it's to do with pedigree and the build and the stamp of the horse, etc., etc. I was just looking at it, going, I'm glad I'm not involved in the buying and selling of horses, because that's beyond my little brain. That's for sure. Never mind. So for that reason, ladies and gentlemen, I'm stuck in with the flat this week. So it's
yeah, thanks very much.
We did throw one in, which I personally, having looked at it afterwards, I rather regret, but never mind. We chucked in a handicap hurdle at Kelso, which we'll come to. I dread to think what Ron's going to tell me about that, because I struggle with it. But still, we shall start off on the flat. Sorry, I suspect that it will be the last time this, won't it? The 1:30 at Doncaster on Saturday.
Now, I've started my little piece with, it's now that flat racing has me pulling the face, similar to that I'd pull if somebody dropped their guts in a lift that I was sharing with them. I can put it no kinder than that. I do. I look at these races and I just go, ew. In 3 of the last 4 years, this race has been run on heavy ground.
Yeah.
And last year's winner is 0 from 4 since it won it. The winner in 2022 is 0 from 1. The winner of it in 2021 is 1 from 15. Wow. And the Aiden O'Brien trained winner in 2020, Call Me Teddy, is 0 from 30. Between them, the last 4 winners have won 1 race in 50 races. I think that tells you a story. These basically are just 2-year-olds that won't train on. We can take it as read, whatever wins is a bit of a pudding. And they've basically just taken advantage of an end-of-season race that's being run on bad ground. We've got 8 juveniles here, all bar 1 carrying 9 stone 3. 4 are totally exposed. 4 are wholly unexposed. I can only trust to the markets in races like this. And all that tells me is that the winner's in one of the front 4 on the tissue. One of those unexposed ones it is then, isn't it? The current tissue favourite is Bounty, trained by Aiden O'Brien, and I'm a bit sweet on that one. If you see what I did there,
very good.
Because he's only sent 3 for this in the last 10 years, and he had that winner mentioned earlier, and another one placed. Fast Track Harry. The market has been interested in that one, 12-1 into 13-2. But my feeling is that the layers had that priced up wrong in the first place, and it's just an adjustment. Nobody's backing that horse yet. His sole win, it did come on ground like he'll face tomorrow, unlike Bounty, whose win at 2-9 came on slightly quicker ground.
Yeah.
These races, they've got more question marks about them than the Riddler's suit. Purely for podcast purposes only, I'm going with Diego Ventura.
Yeah.
1 from 1 on the ground, 2 from 2 at the trip. Ran second over 7 furlongs in a Group 3 last time out. Now back into his trip that he's won over. On his ground, loading grade. That is my selection, Diego Ventura.
Yeah, I think he's probably the form horse. That's fair comment on what he's done so far. Ran through some brief stats, not as detailed as yours. 9 runnings I've got on my screen. 8 different jockeys, 9 different trainers.
Yeah.
And the only jockey to double up was Andrea Zini, and he's riding in Hong Kong, so that's no use to us either. So everything disappears. Diego, as you say, Diego Ventura, Group 3 runner-up. That probably is the form pick, but I wonder if others might improve past him now. Arctic Voyage.
There is that, yeah.
I did like Arctic Voyage. He was 6-1 earlier in the week. 4-1 is no each-way value again, unfortunately, because he bounded clear on heavy ground. So, okay, as we said earlier, that can exaggerate distances, but he looked quite impressive for Ralph Beckett. Instead of me calling him Ralph, he's actually got his name right. I'm going to stick with Bounty, I'm afraid. It's again, whether there's any value is a separate question. I wonder that about all the O'Brien horses on the flat, all the Nicky Henderson horses over jumps, etc., whether there's any value to be had. Everyone goes, oh, it's Nicky Henderson, I must back that. Oh, it's Aiden O'Brien's, I must back that. So whether there's any value, I don't know. Son of No Nay Never, second his first start with Curragh, made up for that. Looked pretty green, but he actually quickened up really nicely. Scored by 4 lengths. Certainly there's more improvement to come from him. He still holds an Irish 2000 Guineas entry, which means very little, because probably
I was going to say probably half his yard does.
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but at least he still does. So they haven't taken him out yet, so they must think there's still the possibility he could be up to that standard, however slim that possibility might be. I haven't heard that he's considered in the top rank at Ballydall at all, so he's not one of their better horses. I'm quietly confident of that, but he did quicken up in the style of a decent horse. If he takes to the ground, Ryan Moore's the best jockey. I don't have any doubt about that, I'm afraid, at the moment. Well, people can argue with me, they're welcome to, and we all have different opinions, but I think Ryan is the best jockey out there at this moment in time. So he's worth a couple of pounds on him at the very least. So he should go well, 100 to 30, Bounty to win for me, but not my most confident selection of the day. You'll be delighted to know.
So next, Newbury 2 o'clock.
Yes. What do you make of this one? There's a conundrum for you.
Yeah, well, it is all about the juveniles tomorrow, isn't it? And here's another listed race for fillies. So obviously, age and weights count for diddly squat. And let's see what the markets tell us. I've only got 8 previous runnings of this race to work with, and generally I'm looking for around 10 minimum. But 6 of the 8 have gone to the front 3 on the tissue. 3 of the last 7 winners going off favourite. And it's current tissue favourite, Supermodel, that I'm going to be going with. Trained by William Haggis, who sent 5 for this in the last 10 years, winning it with 2, placing with another 2. She's just one of just 2 in here with winning form on the going, as currently described. The other one is Isabella Castile, who is already 0 from 1 at the trip, 0 from 2 at the track, whilst Supermodel's win actually came over this trip. The front 3 on the tissue, they've only had 4 runs between them. So who knows how much improvement any or all of them have still got left in them. I'll put up Supermodel, but I'll be honest, I've not got a clue, really.
Interesting. Magical Sunset won this last year for Richard Hannon. He's back again with Too Much Heaven, who won over course and distance on her only start so far. Yeah. She made the majority of the running there. She wasn't really showing the whip. It was hands and heels nearly all the way. I think she was given 1 or 2 awakeners, shall we say, inside the final furlong to keep her up to her task. Won by 4 lengths. Looks like any amount of improvement to come. I have to say, she was one, other than the obvious O'Brien ones and those running in the Group 1s, as a maiden winner, she impressed me as much as any other filly I've seen all season. Really, really impressive. Rafe Beckett's back with Sakara Sands and Sea to Sky. They could be big rivals as well. Obviously, Supermodel, who I didn't expect to be favourite, to be honest. She won as she pleased at Haydock on her only start, so I can't disagree with you that she's got a good chance. But Too Much Heaven, Richard Hannon, Sean Levy, 9-2. I think that's an each way price to me, to be honest with you. You get a quarter of the odds if you shop around. 9-8, you're going to make a small profit if she places and a decent profit if she wins. So Too Much Heaven for me. I think she's very, very nice filly, and we'll see how she gets on Saturday.
Indeed. 240 Doncaster.
Exactly. Go for it.
Yeah, I read a really upbeat interview with James Owen regarding Wimbledon Hawkeye in the midweek.
Yeah.
And absolutely convinced he's got himself a flying machine here. Julie opened up 5-2 to win this Group 1. But he's been as weak as a kitten on the tissue ever since. He's now out to 7-2. Whilst the Aiden O'Brien trained Delacroix is 10-1 into 4-1. We both got that horse totally wrong last time out, but that's juveniles for you, isn't it? Again, age and weight ranges don't apply. Using market position, you see the last 3 runnings have gone to the favourite, 2 trained by O'Brien. You also see 3 of the previous 7 also went to the favourite, 2 of them trained by O'Brien. He's saddled 24 for this race in the last 10 years. He's won with 4 and placed with 7. He obviously pretty much targets this race. 5 of the last 7 runnings have gone to an Irish trained horse. And so this time I'm actually going aside with Delacroix, who I can certainly see starting favourite tomorrow, given the way the market is going at the moment. Delacroix for me.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good Group 1, and if everyone turns up on form, I think it might be one of the better Group 1s of the season, for juveniles anyway. You've got an unbeaten Gosden horse in Nebras, trading at 16-1. All right, only had the one run. You've got an unbeaten Charlie Appleby, William Buick, Anno Domini at 7s. You've got another unbeaten Gosden one in Detain at 5s. And then, of course, the form horse is Wimbledon Hawkeye. I don't think there's any question mark about that. There goes a train, if anyone can hear that. I believe Detain was supplemented for this. Now, he's run 2-1-2, both on the all-weather at Kempton. He's been mightily, mightily impressive. And they think it's his first run on turf, so we'll find out. But they think he could be very, very special. Let's face it, Judd Mont have had a pretty good year. I think that's a fair comment. And if Detain's as good as they think he is, I think he can win this. Again, 5-1. Yeah. It's skinny as far as each way value goes, but I'd rather get something back than nothing. So Detain, stop it. Detain each way for me at 5-1. Gosden and Schumark, I think it's got a great chance. But it's certainly a race worth watching. I think it's a decent race, and we could see one of the top 2-year-olds of the year coming out of this. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Something shines tomorrow because,
Never mind.
310 Newbury.
Yeah.
310 Newbury.
Horrible. Yeah.
More juveniles. The Group 3, Horace Hill.
Yep.
It's another that has been won by a horse that is just a 2-year-old and doesn't train on. Last year's winner, Knight, is 0 from 8 since taking this race and was last seen finishing the 21 length last of 6 in July. 5 of the last 8 winners were sitting second or third favourite. I'll use that. So my winner is one of Benevento or Make You Smile. 3 of the last 4 winners arrived having had just one run, which they had won. And if I use that to pick one of that pair, then it's course and distance winner, Make You Smile. Now, this horse has drifted from 9-2 to 13-2 since the market opened, but then everything has eased in the market since this market was first put out into the open. Yeah. Unless it gets silly, I'll go Make You Smile 2080. Obviously, if it goes a double figure price, then I'll just sit and watch. But that's all I can come up with it for a race like that.
He's thoroughly enjoying this, isn't he, everybody? He's obviously enjoying
isn't he?
2-year-olds I've thrown at him. I didn't see what age groups they were, to be honest. I just looked for groups and listed.
Yeah.
While we're avoiding each other. Exactly what you said earlier about horses who don't necessarily train on. I get the feeling that William Haggis's Yarug is going to fit that bill. I suspect he looks like he's a bit of a bully of a 2-year-old, but I wouldn't expect too much as a 3-year-old. And I'll get thrown out of Newmarket if I said that out loud, of course. But yeah, he's won 4 races so far this year. He handles the ground. As soon as he won last time out at Chantilly in listed class, they immediately nominated this or another race back in France as his 2 possible objectives. So he hasn't been put in here at the last minute or as an afterthought. This has always been part of the plan as long as the ground was okay, and it is. He won on heavy at Chantilly, so he won't have any trouble with the heavy ground he's expected to encounter here. So I think although he's favourite, I think he's the likeliest winner. Yeah, Makey Smile's hard to gauge. He won on his debut with ease, but this is quite a rising class, so we really don't know what he's up against. Bob Marley doesn't impress. He just only ever does enough, but he's tough as teak, that one. And he's unbeaten after 3 starts, 7-1. Wouldn't blame anyone considering him as an each way alternative. But for me, I'll stick with Yarug. It's a wide open race, and I think it's one of my only favourites of the day, I think. But yeah, I think Yarug will handle the ground better than most, and I think he's the bully of a 2-year-old we were talking about that may not train on at 3, and that may be all he needs to take this one.
Yeah.
2 to go. We've got to rush through them while Rom's still alive.
Yay! Just hanging on in there. Kelso, 320. Yeah, one for me.
I was doing giving you this as a
handicap hurdle. Get in.
You can have this one, most of it, that's for sure.
Oh, thanks very much, mate. The go-to age range here, it's pretty wide, with horses aged between 5 and 8 taking this twice or more in the last 10 years. But in recent years, it's been horses aged 6 or 7 that have basically dominated it. They've won 4 of the last 5, 5 of the last 7. So my first shortlist will comprise of Ballyfort, Old Gregorian, Bashful, Jumping Jupiter, 9-5, Evenwood, Son of a Gun, Jet Patrol, There She Goes, Fairmac, and Heart Above. Hardly a shortlist.
Oh, the world's longest shortlist. Yeah.
I know, yeah. Everyone's asleep now. Andy's just reaching for another Guinness. Weight ranges next. I'm looking for something carrying more than 11 stone, but less than 12 stone. The winner of the last 8 runnings of this falls into that weight range. And of those above, we make the cut with Old Gregorian, Bashful, Jumping Jupiter, 9-5, and Evenwood, Son of a Gun. But down to a respectable 5. So now we'll move on to the markets now. We've seen 5 winning favourites in the last 7 years. And in the last decade, only 2 winners have actually sat outside the front 3 on the tissue. So with the tissue that you very kindly found for me, I've narrowed it down to 2, Bashful and 9-5. Now it got a bit tricky. The last 5 runners of this had all raced this season, and all 5 had actually finished in the first 4, with last year's winner arriving, having won last time out. Neither of this pair qualifies, but Bashful's been kept busy on the flat this summer. And I'm thinking it's a fitness thing, and the fact that he has been running on the flat means he strips fitter than most as a result of that. I'm going to put Bashful up as a 2080. I've forgotten what price you said he was, around about 5-1-ish.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'll put him up as a 2080, Bashful. There you go.
I have to say, I suppose what I should say is when we're saying as a price, we're taking a 7-1 Bashful. We're taking a tissue from the Sporting Life website, quite frankly, because I couldn't find one anywhere else, and no one's betting on it at the time of recording.
No.
Why I threw this race, anybody's guess. It looked like a reasonably big field at the early declarations, so I thought we'll chuck that in. It gives us something to work with instead of ending up with a 4-runner field.
Yeah.
I look back at the last 10 runnings, all were priced at 9-1 or shorter, with 5 winning favourites. Lucinda Russell won this in 2015 and again last year, the only trainer who doubled up in the last decade. She's represented by Fairmac and Old Gregorian. Sean Quinlan's the only jockey to win it twice in the same period, and he'll be on board Evenwood, Son of a Gun, on his first start for wife Lizzie after arriving from the Fergal O'Brien yard. I put down it's a horror of a race. That's what I think of it, that's for sure. And in brackets, my mistake. But I've got to go for one, and the poor horse number with my money is going to be Foster's Fortune. He won at Sedgefield in May, returned with a good second at the same track when well clear of the third, despite looking as if the race was doing good. If he strips fitter now, he may take this. He's stepping up a class. He may take the step up in class in his stride for Chris Grant and jockey Danny McMenamin. Again, it's that fitness edge that drew me to him more than anything else. There are others here who potentially are better horses and will prove to be better horses later in the season. But at this current stage, I'm looking for a fitness edge, and that points me to Foster's Fortune as an each way opportunity, which is about 10 to 1. So Foster's Fortune each way will do for me in that race. And the sooner we move on, the better. Horrible. Didn't enjoy that one, I'm afraid. Nothing really sort of jumped out.
From what I can see, though, all anybody needs to do is wait for the market to form.
Yeah.
Keep it as long as possible, and just dutch the front three on the tissue, and that should do it for you.
Might not be a bad idea, to be honest with you. It's just one of those races you don't know till you get them. And when I pick these races and throw them at Ron for him to deal with, poor Ron, I don't know how many runners we've got, what kind of market we're going to get. So. But it's 5 to 1 the field, so it gives you an idea of how competitive it is. So maybe between us, we've got a winner, or even a top three will do, wouldn't it, really?
Yeah, I'm telling you, we've both been wise and gone each way 2080s.
I think it's the only way forward. One last race, the 3:45 at Newbury. One last one to deal with.
Yeah, Group 3 St. Simon Stakes. The last 9 of these have been won by horses age 3. They've won 3. 4, they've won 4. And 5, they've won 3. So age groups are of absolutely no use here. It's a group race, so weight ranges don't apply to me either. And so all I can do again is look at the market positions. With 7 of the last 9 winners, front 3 on the tissue, I'm going to suggest that the winner is one of Al-Arsi, Danielle, or Salt Bay. It's 2018. 2018 since a 3-year-old won this. So I'd have to drop Gosden's Danielle straight away. With Salt Bay already 0 from 2 ground, 0 from 4 trip, and 0 from 3 track. It's got to be Al-Arsi winning this. But would you take 11 to 10 about a horse who has never raced on heavy ground, who was beaten on soft ground last time out, and whose 2 previous wins before that came on good to fame? Yeah, he's the best horse in the race, and if he gets through the mud, he's not without a chance, and I'll bet he will. I think looking back through the mists of time, he won a class 5 on soft ground by about 10 lengths. Yeah, many moons ago. But this is not a class 5. No. This is a Group 3 race, and all of his recent form suggests he needs it quicker than heavy. So I'll put him up as a podcast selection, but I wouldn't touch him with a barge pole.
Yeah, I'm pretty much going along the same lines as you. Do I like him at 11 to 10? I didn't like him at 5 to 4 when I started writing it. I don't like him at 11 to 10 particularly, but he's won 6 times at this level. He's won on very soft going, and he's arriving in good form. 6 runners, so really harsh or hard to try and find a sensible each way alternative. I did look. No, I'm quite interested in feigning madness actually as to how he's going to run. He's unbeaten at 2, not seen since being gelded in May, so he's obviously had some issues. But he's a bit of an unknown quantity here and could be anything. 10 to 1, you think, well, yeah. If this was an 8 horse field, I'd be sorely tempted to look at him as an each way alternative, just in case he's up and running again, so to speak. But it's not. Yeah. It's a tiny field, so there's nothing we can do with that. So yeah, Al-Arsi for me, as I've written there. Do you want to take a horse at that price? No, I don't. But can I find something to beat him? No, I can't. So yeah, I mean, you're right. He's probably had his best on a firmer surface, but I think he's one of those horses that handles anything. So I don't think he'll be bothered by the ground. Will he be his best on it? Probably not. Will he need to be his best to win this? Probably not. So therefore, Al-Arsi for me, with all the confidence you can hear from my tone of voice.
Yeah.
Not good. Not good. Right, time to talk about some OMS, I think, Mr. Ron.
Yeah, music's dead at the moment, so I can't give you music. You'll just get the odd round of applause. Okay, we're going to start with a horse called Current Mood yesterday, 16 to 1 into 4 to 1 in the newsletter. Only went and won at 6 to 1.
Very good.
Then the next one, this is a doozy. This was yesterday as well. Musical Touch, 12 to 1 into 7 to 1 into 6 to 1 and burst into flames in the newsletter. What a 5 to 2 favourite That's the all weather for you. And last but not least, I noticed this juvenile being well battered, called Treble T a couple of days ago. 10-1 into 7-2 in the newsletter, dotted up at 100-30. I could have actually gone through a list of about 20 this week. And again, it's like we said at the beginning of the podcast, where at this point in time, it's the markets that are determining what will win a horse race. You can go through as many form lines as you like. You can read the draw bias as well as you can and apply everything you possibly know to try and find the result of a race. It's the markets where the winners are.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. We had this discussion before we came on air, and it's largely down to the time of year, similar to sort of March, April.
It's exactly that. Yeah.
Who knows who's fit and who isn't fit? That's the thing. I mean, there might be those fine. We're talking about the jumpers when I'm saying this. Sorry, but there'll be those who are fine-tuned for today because they realise that before the big guns come out, this is their chance to pick up some money. So they'll be totally fine-tuned, and others going, oh yeah, there's a nice chase in 6 weeks' time, so we'll give him a pop round over hurdles first just to tighten it up a bit. He's the one who drifts from 6 to 16s, and I look like an idiot because his form said he had every chance of winning, and then something with 16s who is cherry ripe, he's backed into 6s and goes and wins it as one of the OMs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's what can you do? I don't work with the OMs. Ron does. I obviously read them and use them occasionally, but I don't work with them from a journalist perspective. So it's form book for me.
Well, you can't really, can you? Because you're working 48 hours in advance someday, and you haven't even got a tissue then.
No, sometimes that's good not having a tissue because you sort of.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't have touched that much. It's 10-1. Someone must know something I don't, and then it goes and wins. You're just stuck with the straightforward form book. It worked. Not always. Yeah. Right. Something for the weekend, sir.
I've got to put up Delacroix. He looks the best horse racing at the weekend. It's probably the best race of the weekend, and Aiden O'Brien does love the race. So yeah, without a great deal of confidence and with not a single penny going anywhere near it, I'll put up Delacroix.
Well, I'm going to put up Too Much Heaven in the 2 o'clock at Newbury. She really impressed me. She's about 92. If you get steal some 5-1 somewhere, I wouldn't blame you. Look for a quarter of the odds and go each way. I'd be surprised if she's not in the first 3. So get your money back in a fraction. I wouldn't be at all surprised if she goes and wins and does so easily. In which 5-1's a pretty good price. So Too Much Heaven.
It is and all.
Before we go, a little bit of stop press that Ron doesn't know what I'm going to say here because it's only just come through on my phone. Aiden O'Brien, this is on the Racing Post, Aiden O'Brien has launched a strong defence of racing and its relationship with betting in the wake of the crackdown on gambling advertising in Ireland regulation bill. I'm not going to read the whole lot because it goes on for quite a while. He talks about cynical attitudes to those who question when he says City of Troy is the best horse he's ever trained, etc., etc. I'm not even going to go into that, but he says, and I quote, racing is the one sport in the world that people can do all their life, he said. They can have a bet or not have a bet. They can have an opinion and not have an opinion. He carries on, there are so many older people out there, the likes of retired people who don't work anymore and watching racing and reading what you guys and girls write and watching interviews, marking off the horses they fancy in their paper. That sort of stuff is getting them through the day. We don't realise how big and how important that sort of stuff is.
But it's like we've just discussed there. I've got an opinion on the race, but I'm not going to have a bet on it.
No. Well, that's what we said here. Some people get addicted to things. You can get addicted to smoking or to this or to that. But if people get addicted to something, it's a case of helping them out and getting them through it. What about the other 99 or 95% of people? Don't take it away from them. I don't suppose that will help over here, particularly because he's Irish. And that's not meant rudely. He's talking about the Irish industry, not the British.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
But it can't be a negative thing for a top personality in the racing world to come out so vehemently saying, let the rest of us get on with what we can do, and if we're in trouble with it, help us out, and if you've got a problem, help us out. And no one's ever argued that. I certainly haven't. But for the 99 or whatever it is % who don't have a problem, can we not just carry on with it, please?
With the people who've got a problem with gambling, it's a problem with gambling. It's not a problem with gambling on horses.
No,
it's a problem with gambling on everything. They would, once the betting shop's closed, they go in the pub and have a bet with somebody about who's going to get the next goal on the match on television. And that's just their addictive personality. It's nothing to do with horse racing. Absolutely nothing.
as I think I said last week, someone told me I think it was 1.9% of people who gamble on the lottery, which is untouched by have a problem. 2.1% in racing. Is give or take a tuppence, the same thing. So, and yet they're attacking horse racing and tying it in with casinos and slots, and they're leaving the lottery. So basically, I can walk into William Hill and they go, "Sorry, mate, we're not taking your 30 quid." So I walk into the corner shop next door and buy a load of lottery tickets or a load of scratch cards. And that's
it's like I just said. When the betting shops are shut, they'll still find something to bet on. They'll go online and go on Kitty Bingo or something daft,
That seems to be the thing. Watching the adverts, it's bingo this, bingo that all the time. So
you're nuts.
Well, I'm guessing that's the bookmakers behind that, thinking, okay, we're going to be stopped or hurt, for want of a better phrase, on the slots, the casinos, and racing. So let's point them all towards tombolas and bingos, and because they're. But that's an argument for another day. But that new flag came in from the Racing Post. So I thought I'd prove that we were up to date and on the ball, if nothing else.
On the ball. Good grief! Imagine us being on the ball.
Not really, no. On that note, enjoy your weekends, everybody. I'm looking out the window. This looks pretty darn miserable where I am.
It is.
We're into winter. Yeah, but you wouldn't care if you were at Cheltenham, would you? You'd dress up warmly and you'd be enjoying the racing and making the most of it. So make the most of your weekends, whatever you're up to, everybody.
Indeed.
All right. Anything else we need to add?
Nope, that's me. Done, dusted. I'm going to go and get myself another Strepsil.
Have a Strepsil and get back onto your Cheltenham website. I'm cracking the whip. Cracking the whip over a phone line. Right, have a good one, as I said, and we will be back next week as far as I know, but Ron and I will discuss that later. And best of luck with your bets. Let's hope everyone's a winning one.
Indeed. Take care now.
Cheers now. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Post Racing, the site for winners.